Hi, how are you? So my name is Njambi Ngari, and this is my stories. So, I am from a very, very small village in Karatina. I am a firstborn of 3 kids. I was born and raised in that village. So the very, very first time I experienced just an environment out of my home area was when I turned 11 and I joined boarding school. But at that point, I was just being raised by my dad. So he was the breadwinner, the parent of the entire family. So joining boarding school coming from a very small village was a little bit difficult because, well, nimetoka Karatina, nimetoka mahali kwenye I actually went to school nikasoma Kikuyu. So the only language I could speak at that point was Kikuyu peke yake. Hata Kiswahili, even the simplest ya kuomba maji, I didn't even speak that much. So for me, it felt like a little bit of a change, of a shift, which actually impacted me so much. So I joined boarding school. Unapata most of those people, it was a girls' school. Most of the girls in the school were from Nairobi. So unapata hiyo culture shock. So for me, nimeingia hapo, siwezi express na Kiswahili, siwezi express na any other language. I only speak Kikuyu. Everyone else anaongea Sheng. Languages I don't even speak, hata sikuwa naelewa. So for me, that created a place of maybe need to learn, need to be better, need to grow. So that was in class 5. So kidogo, I met a friend. I met a very good friend. I remember her name was Virginia. Virginia ndiye alinikalisha chini na novels, akaniambia mtu spell hivi. So unaona mimi ni Mnyeri, the difference between chin and sh was very, very hard to differentiate. So nakumbuka Virginia akiniambia mtu asemangi show, tunasemanga cho. So well, it came from, yani I actually learned kuongea mwenyewe when I was about 12 years old, to express in different languages and all that. So from there, as you can understand, kama hujui kusoma, hata masomo hauko poa. But when I got to class 7, things started changing for me, and I feel like I got to a point where my self-esteem peaked. Nikafika mahali I could actually now do presentation, I could do a math equation mbele ya watu. Before then, well, ilikuwa ngumu just because I could not express myself. So hapo ndio nilipata, I think, my very, very first time of knowing self and the paradigm shift itself. So from there I joined high school, bado in Kirinyaga. Well, I was a good student, relatively good student. My dad was the support system, my dad was the parent, so he would make sure I knew. So at that time, I had drawn a roadmap of what I would want to be when growing up. I was, a friend of mine, her auntie had been admitted at the hospital on the burn unit. So nakumbuka nikiingia, and I was hit by this weird smell. At that point, I decided, no, I am not going to medical school. I'm not doing anything to do with medicine. I called my dad immediately. I told him, KMTC cancelled too. Your story, apana, staki. So at that point, we sat down and decided, okay, let's see. So, wewe unataka kusoma, mimi nataka kusoma, nataka usome, I'll pay for the education. What would you do? So at that point, tukaangalia what the job market looked like at that point. Then we settled. So I was going to KU to do economics and finance. And nitapata kazi World Bank, So that was the idea. So niingia nifanya economics, nifanya kazi World Bank. So first year. So nimemaliza my first sem, nimefunga shule, tumeenda home for the holidays, and during that holiday my dad just passed. It was sudden, nothing expected. It was just a small accident that caused so many other ripple effects. And eventually he passed in the hospital after 2 days. So niko hapo. Actually, I remember he just told me, wewe jua uko ni wewe uko. That was the last conversation I had. So, and then the next day napigiwa simu naambia, he's gone. So me, I'm there. Ashaniambia ni mimi niko. I have never actually experienced money. I have never interacted with money directly, except ile pocket money nimekuwa nikipatiwa, small things for food at home, just because I'm the firstborn na yeye ako away most of the time. He was a vet, so he used to travel a lot. So damn, sijui pesa, the only money at that point sasa niliweza ku access ilikuwa pesa yenye tulichangiwa time ya mazishi. So I'm like, okay, this money can barely cover school fee for myself for one semester. How am I going to cover school fee for myself for the remaining of the 3 years in campus, for my brother and sister in high school? My sister is in Form 1, my brother is in Form 2. It was quite crazy because, you know, I went into serious depression. So those things you never think you would recover from. But somehow, just a friend I had connected with in high school, her mom worked for the government. She came through and told me, you know what, I'll help you access your dad's pension. So myself, I was able to start to go through school using my dad's pension, and I used that pension to farm. So yes, I was also left a shamba, ya kahawa. So for me, that gave at least, you know, a little bit of hope that things can actually work. So I am the parent hapo. I am struggling between school and raising my siblings. And eventually, I lost interest in the course I was studying. So I was studying economics. It became just a burden. It didn't feel good. So for me, I have never actually spent a day. So after campus, my brother and my sister were sorted and everything else, I have never actually gotten to a point where I looked for a job in the economics field, in anything I studied. So actually off campus, right away, I just started doing marketing. Maybe that is how I got here. Because the first thing I did was insurance. I think most of us who started marketing way back then, ilianzaga tuna insurance policies, these ones that are very, very hard to sell. So for me, so that is how I became. But you see, I worked every day, but I never had a point where I knew what finances were, what it would mean to invest. Because I have grown up knowing pesa inakuanga. So sikuwa najua you need to sacrifice something to get something. For me, that was just something new. So fast forward, nime struggle, COVID came. I remember during COVID, I lost my job. So sina job. I was in a relationship with that had kids in the relationship. So tuko hapo, we are struggling. So all of us are working hard, but COVID to job aziko nini. So I remember at that point nilianza kuzungusha food. Nakumbuka nikipika mukimo and pack kwa bakuli, at least site zikafunguliwa after 3 months. So mimi nilikuwa nauza food kwa mjengo. Nilikuwa nauzungusha mukimo ya 50 bob. So every day I had something, a new recipe. And I think just because I'm passionate about cooking and food, that gave me something to do during that time. And I was able to, you know, hang on. You just need a rope to hang on until things work out. So in 2021, actually during my birthday, I got my job in Savo. So that was July 2021. I remember walking into Corobels for the interview. Naangalia naona kwa nini hawa watu wameniita kazi ya marketing kwa hoteli. Wanataka ni market hoteli. It looked like a hotel to me at that point because I had not known about Savo. The only way I got to know about the job was through my sister. A friend of hers posted it on their WhatsApp status. So yeye akachukua tu link akaniambia, "Well, apply for the job." So I applied. Then I was called for the interview and I'm coming here naona wananiita kwa hoteli. I didn't even know what Savo did at that point because I was called for the interview the previous evening. I had to report the next morning. So I had not even done any research nikifika. So I sat down, nikiwa hapo waiting for my time for my session, read through, understood what Savo does. And I was like, okay, this sounds nice. Okay, for me, I didn't see it from a perspective here, you know, financial independence and retirement and all that. I saw it as a point of, oh my God, this is a beautiful marketing job. I would love to be there to sell an apartment. This is something I've never actually experienced. So I came in, got the job. I remember the first few months were a struggle for me, especially in terms of sales, because you see, I am the kind of person who is set in their ways. If I am used to doing something this way, for me to change my mind would take so much more than just, you know. So I'm coming to sell an apartment. So nimekuwa nikiuza small ticket sales. I'm coming for a small ticket sale, then I'm being given a high ticket sale to make. So nimetoka kuuza madawa za 400 bob. Nimetoka kuuza I was a med rep before then. Nimetoka kuuza madawa za 400 shillings. Kidogo ninajipata naambiwa uza an apartment for 1.8 million. I'm like, okay. But you see, the same way I used to do things could not work. So I struggled a bit. I struggled letting go of how I used to do things. And that was not the only struggle I had, honestly. Because I remember after about 6-7 months, Now my mentor at that point, she came and sat me down and asked me, have you considered doing an investment? For me, swali yangu kwa akili ilikuwa inakuja, na invest na pesa gani na bado sijaanza ku make enough money? You know, there is the roadmap, you're drawn, you're a salesperson, you're paid by the number of sales you make, nini, but I'm not making sales. So hata nikijaribu sina pesa ya kuinvest. So that was about 6 months in. For the next 6 months, she took her time just giving me a run through of what an investment will make sense. What does investment mean? What does retiring early mean for any person? So that is where maybe I got my paradigm shift, and I didn't even start investing until 1.5 years after I was in the company, just because I didn't know how to start. I didn't have the financial literacy that anyone else has. So mimi niko hapo, I am used to being a consumer. Unanilipa 60,000, nakula 60,000. What is so wrong with that? Bora mimi niko comfortable. So here I am, and I'm learning things about sacrifice, paradigm shift. If you want to end up with a good future, you need to sacrifice something today. So for me, that was just difficult. Yani, maddest situation for me. So, but coming out of it felt, like lighter. Because you see, I lost so much. Now that paradigm shift means you're shifting the way you talk to people, you're shifting the way you spend your money, you're shifting the kind of friends you keep. So along that 1 year, I lost so many friends, so many relations, just because I am speaking a different language. I am speaking investment. I cannot be a consumerist anymore. So for me, it changed a lot. So eventually I started my first investment. It was quite hectic because I remember I decided, why not? Let me do this. So I started actually na 5,000 peke yake. I remember hata nikiandika hiyo email nikisikia a little bit of shame. Nikisema sasa mimi naandika email wani deduct 5,000 peke yake. Kwani what kind of an investment is that? But I remember a friend telling me the hardest part is usually starting. Once you've started something, it's always easy to actually run. So me, I hit the ground. With my first month, I paid 5,000. After that first month, I realized, oh my God, I didn't die. Your 5K, I didn't die. I am still here. So I went back to the finance team. I told them, okay, I think we can do this thing. Now I set an amount that I felt, if I sacrifice this much, and I'm calculating my financial independence number to be this amount per month, I can actually be able to make this investment. So yeah, so that is how my paradigm shift was born, and how I started my first unit. From there, I have added 2 more units to that. I'm still making payments for my units, but I am glad that I get to have a platform where I can talk about investing and investment, education and all that, and still be able to invest in the same pie, you get. So it's quite different, it's quite exciting. I am actually glad I walked into Savo in 2021, yeah. And I get to do this thing every day, talking to investors, talking about financial independence, talking about investment. I think that is the best part of my day. Thank you. Umepita 30 minutes. My name is Njambi Ngari, and that was my story.